I remember the exact moment the galaxy went quiet. It was not a dramatic silence, no alarms shutting off, no music fading out. It was the silence of 18 alien civilizations, each thousands of years older than us, each with fleets that could darken a sun, all choosing at the exact same second to say absolutely nothing. I was standing at my weapons console aboard the UES, Unyielding Meridian, watching a cloud of glittering rock debris slowly spread across the dark of space where, 3 seconds ago, a solid asteroid had been sitting 310,000 kilometers away. My hand was still resting on the firing control. My coffee, wedged into its magnetic holder beside the console, had gone cold an hour ago. I had not noticed until that moment. My name is Yara Osei. I am a lieutenant commander in the United Earth Space Defense Force, and I was the person who pulled the trigger the day humanity showed the galaxy what we had been quietly building for 2.5 centuries. 3 months before the demonstration, I sat in a windowless briefing room in Cape Town alongside 40 other officers and scientists. Admiral Priya Chandra stood at the front, her silver hair cut short, her posture the kind that makes you sit up straighter without being asked. She pulled up intercepted diplomatic chatter from the Galactic Council, the organization of 18 spacefaring civilizations that humanity had joined 73 years ago, 11 years before I was born. The messages were polite. They were almost kind. That was the problem. The Vithari, a species that communicates through resonating crystal structures inside their bodies, producing sounds like a church organ played very slowly, had sent a formal message suggesting that humanity might want to delay our weapons review. We were 11 years late on the Armament Transparency Accord already. The accord required every new species in the Council to demonstrate their military technology within 50 years of joining. We had taken 63 years. The Vithari message said, in the careful language of diplomatic translation, that there was no shame in having a smaller arsenal than expected, and that the Council would receive whatever we had to show with full respect and patience. I remember reading that message twice. Admiral Chandra let us sit with it for a moment. Then she said, "They think we've been embarrassed into hiding. They think we're late because we're ashamed of what we built." Someone in the back of the room laughed. It was not a mean laugh. It was the laugh of a person who has been holding a winning hand for a very long time, and has just been told, one more time, to fold. The Varath Belt is a wide ring of debris between star systems, far enough from any inhabited planet to be used as neutral ground. The Council chose it long ago for exactly that reason. Nothing important enough to fight over, and enough open space to spread out and observe comfortably. When the Unyielding Meridian arrived with our 2 escort frigates, the Patient Zero, and the Calculated Risk, names that our crew had voted on and that our Admiralty had approved with visible amusement, the alien observation fleets were already arranged in a wide arc. 18 species, hundreds of ships, sensor arrays the size of small towns had unfolded from their hulls like flowers turning toward sunlight. They were watching us the way adults watch a child prepare to perform a magic trick they already know the secret to. I stood at my station and took a slow breath. The Korath hive ships were the most immediately unsettling to look at, dark, clustered structures that moved in small coordinated shifts, like a single animal made of many parts. The Omari arcs were the opposite, vast, slow, ancient, shaped like irregular mountains with lights buried deep inside them. The Omari had been crossing the galaxy since before humans had discovered fire. They made me feel, on most days, extremely small. On this particular day, I did not feel small. Through the diplomatic channel, the Vithari ambassador, a being that appeared, on our translation screens, as a slowly shifting geometric shape because their physical form was difficult to render in human visual terms, offered one final polite gesture. They asked if we needed assistance positioning our demonstration targets closer to our vessel for easier engagement range. I reached over and unmuted my console. "No thank you, Ambassador," I said. "These distances are intentional." There was a pause. Then, very carefully, the translation rendered a single Vithari syllable that our linguistic AI flagged as meaning acknowledged, with surprise. "Let me tell you about the Railgun. I am not going to give you the classified technical specifications, because I did not memorize them, and also because that is not the point. The point is what it feels like to understand what it does. A railgun uses electromagnetic force, the same fundamental force that governs every magnet you have ever touched, every electric current you have ever used, to accelerate a solid projectile to extraordinary speed. No chemical explosion, no propellant burning away in a chamber, just coils of electromagnetic energy firing in perfect sequence down a barrel 200 meters long. each one passing the projectile forward to the next, like a relay race, run at a speed the human eye cannot follow. The theoretical work for this technology was done by a Scottish physicist in the 1800s. His name was James Clerk Maxwell, and he was writing about magnetism and light, not weapons. He had no idea. The first working prototype of a railgun was built in the early 21st century by a research team in Virginia, who were technically working on a mass acceleration research platform. The name was, let us say, chosen carefully. We had 46 years of space-rated operational railgun systems before the Council demonstration. 46 years of quietly testing, improving, refining. 46 years of the galaxy assuming we were still figuring things out. Human patience is a strange thing. We are, historically, not a patient species. We are loud and fast, and we frequently make decisions before we have finished thinking them through. But when we find something worth protecting, worth developing, worth getting exactly right, we can be extraordinarily, almost unnervingly still. The first target was at 40,000 kilometers. The alien sensors caught the impact. There were murmurs across the diplomatic channel. Polite acknowledgement, mild interest. Even their own early kinetic weapons could manage this range. The second target was at 80,000 kilometers. The murmurs became quieter. The third was at 120,000 kilometers. This time, no one said anything at all for a moment. Then a Korath signal came through. The translation system rendered it in a flat, mechanical voice, but I could feel the weight behind it. Confirmation requested. Was that impact real-time, or are we seeing a delay? Real-time, Captain Tanaka said from the command chair beside me. His voice was completely level. He could have been reading a grocery list. The fourth target was at 310,000 kilometers. I want you to understand what that number means. It is roughly the distance from Earth to its moon. I had learned that fact in school when I was 9 years old, in a unit about the solar system. At 9, I thought of it as the measure of something impossibly far, a journey that had taken early human astronauts 3 days to complete. It had never, at any point in my childhood, occurred to me to think of it as a shooting range. I armed the system. I ran the final alignment check. I looked at the targeting display for exactly 2 seconds. I fired. The round left the barrel at 3.2% the speed of light. In the 3 seconds it traveled, Captain Tanaka did not move. I did not move. The crew of the unyielding Meridian did not move. We had all practiced this, run simulations, talked through every possible scenario. But there is a difference between a simulation and the real thing, and in those 3 seconds, I think every human on that ship felt it. Then the fourth asteroid detonated. Not broke apart, not cracked. Detonated. The kinetic energy of the impact converting instantly into an explosion of rock and light that spread outward in a perfect sphere and caught the light of the distant star and turned into something that looked, from where we were sitting, almost beautiful. And then the galaxy went silent. 93 seconds, I counted every one of them. I know that different species use silence differently, because I had spent 6 weeks studying xenolinguistic protocols before this mission. For the Vithari, silence is the highest form of respect. They go quiet only when they are genuinely moved. For the Korath, silence means threat assessment, which means their brains are working very fast and they are not ready to speak yet. For the Olmari, the ancient, vast, slow Olmari, silence means something even deeper. It means they are recalculating their model of the universe. 93 seconds is a very long time when you are listening to 18 civilizations think. Captain Tanaka's voice broke the quiet first. He opened the full diplomatic channel, and when he spoke, he sounded like a man confirming a routine delivery had arrived. UES. Unyielding Meridian. Weapons demonstration complete. We have 4 additional railgun systems aboard. We are prepared to continue if the Council requires further data. He was lying about the 4. We had 2. I did not look away from my console. Neither did anyone else on the bridge. The Vithari ambassador spoke after those 93 seconds. Their translated voice was slower than usual, like they were choosing each word with great care. Humanity. We withdraw our offer to delay your review. A pause. You are current. I learned later that the Vithari word for current carries a second meaning in their oldest dialect. It means a force that moves without asking permission. The data sharing portion of the accord came next. Hours of technical briefings, documentation exchange, scientific review. I was assigned to escort a Korath technical envoy through our weapons systems overview. Up close, the Korath are slightly shorter than an average human, with 4 upper limbs and a face that is mostly large compound eyes. Their mandibles move constantly when they are thinking, clicking in patterns too fast to follow. The envoy's mandibles were moving very fast the entire time. At one point, they stopped in the middle of a corridor and looked at me directly, something that Korath do only when they want to say something important. "How long has your species had this technology?" they asked. I answered without hesitation, because the answer was not classified. Theoretical foundation, the 1800s. First working prototype, early 21st century. Space-rated operational system since 2241. The Korath was still for a long moment. 240 years of theoretical development, they said. 46 years of operational use. Yes. The mandibles stopped moving. "And you waited," they said. "You waited until the accord required you to show it. We followed the terms we agreed to." The Korath looked at me for what felt like a very long time. The compound eyes are impossible to read. There is no pupil, no shift of focus you can detect. But something in the stillness of their whole body told me they were feeling something they did not have an easy word for. "It is not the weapon that concerns us," they said finally. "It is the patience." I did not answer that, partly because I did not know what to say, partly because I thought they were right, and I was not sure whether to be proud of that or something more complicated. That night, ship time, I went to the observation bay alone. The Varath belt was still glittering where the fourth asteroid used to be. The debris field caught the starlight and scattered it in slow, drifting arcs. It was genuinely one of the most beautiful things I had ever seen, which felt strange to think about given what had made it. I thought about Maxwell, writing about magnetism in the 1800s with no idea that someone would one day use his equations to hit a rock from the distance of the Earth-Moon gap. I thought about the research team in Virginia with their carefully named platform. I thought about all the engineers and physicists and metallurgists across 2 centuries who had added one small improvement at a time, each one building on the last, none of them alive to see the moment their work flew 310,000 kilometers in 3 seconds and made 18 civilizations go quiet. I thought about the Korath envoy's words. "It is not the weapon, it is the patience." Humanity has a complicated history. We fought ourselves for most of our existence. We destroyed things we built. We hurt each other in ways that are genuinely difficult to justify, and we have had long periods where it seemed like we might not survive ourselves long enough to reach the stars. Anyone studying our history from the outside would have very reasonable concerns about what we might do once we had more power. But here is the thing about surviving a long, difficult history. You learn things. You develop tools that species with smoother pasts never needed. You learn to hold 2 ideas at the same time. You learn to be afraid of a problem and still walk toward it. You learn to keep building even when the reason for the building will not arrive for 100 years. We did not build the railgun because we were planning something. We built it because we are, at our core, problem solvers. And the vastness of space is a problem. The distances are enormous. The time is long. And when humans see a gap between where they are and where they want to go, they build a bridge. Or in this case, they build something that crosses that gap at 3.2% the speed of light. We are not the largest species in the Council. We are not the oldest or the most diplomatic or the most biologically impressive. But we are the ones who spent 240 years thinking about a single physics problem and then, quietly, patiently, solved it. 3 months after the demonstration, I learned through classified channels that the Galactic Council had tabled something called the Humanity Containment Protocol, a document drafted in secret by 6 Council species that outlined how to manage humanity if we became a threat once we were established among the stars. I was not supposed to find out about it. I found out anyway. The Vithari requested a bilateral defense treaty within 6 weeks of our demonstration, not as our protectors, as our equals. The Olmari sent a message. It took 4 days to arrive, encoded in gravitational pulses the way all Olmari communication works. When our linguistics team finally translated it, it was 11 words. "We have crossed the galaxy 11 times. You have made us reconsider our maps." I read that message 3 times, the same way I had read the Vithari's polite offer to delay our review, but it felt very different. I saved it. I still have it. People ask me sometimes what it felt like, pulling the trigger that day. They expect something grand, a rush of pride, a sense of history, maybe a feeling of power. The truth is simpler than that. When I fired, I felt calm, the kind of calm that comes not from the absence of feeling, but from absolute certainty. Certainty that the system would work, certainty that the physics was right, certainty that the 2.5 centuries of human thought that went into that weapon had been enough. The galaxy went silent because they heard something in that shot that had nothing to do with destruction. They heard the sound of a species that had been underestimated for 73 years, that had said very little and built very carefully, and waited without complaint until the right moment, and then, with complete calm, let the math speak for itself. They were not afraid of the railgun. They were afraid of understanding, for the first time, that the humans who built it had looked up at the stars and seen not a ceiling above them, but simply a distance. And we have always been good at closing distances.